Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all a work in progress. I'm your host. I'm Rob Commodari. I'm also the author of the book Better Than You Think and co-author of the book Next Level Your Life. Today, I have a guest, Blane Stewart from Virginia. He's going to clear me up on exactly where in Virginia. Culverton, I think it is. Is that what it is?
It's Orange, Virginia, like the color.
Orange, Virginia. Okay, there you go. Orange, Virginia. And so Blaine's been in the lending business for 23 years. He's with NFM Lending currently right now. He's been with them for 7 years. Married to his wife for 25 years. What they call that? The silver anniversary, right? 25 years. And then I married 2 girls. And you're going to hear a lot. You're going to hear a great story today. I mean, here's a guy who is like at the top of his game and at the top of the game of lending. And he's a big hitter, but he, growing up, he had struggles like all of us do, and he's going to share a little bit of a story of where he came from to where he evolved to, but he was chiseled in the process. But it's funny, I told Blane before we got on this call, he has something in his profile or bio, if you will, on LinkedIn that I read. I'm like, man, it's so like-minded like myself that I wanted to share it. And I'll hit on it when I get to it, but I want to read this. He says, I'm grateful to be alive each day and stay focused on doing my best today to utilize my blessings and talents. This includes being the best father, husband, son, brother, boss, team member, and person I can be in the short time we have here on earth. I love to learn and experience new things, especially anything geared towards excitement, business, and fun. So he's an adventurous too, by the way. Here's the ticket right here. This is what caught me. My goal is to have no potential left in me when it's my time to leave this earth. Just a loose, saggy bag of skin with a couple of bones inside. Blane, before you start talking, I got to share this, and I've shared it a few times on this podcast. The word potential. You said, I want to have no potential left inside me, right? I tell people when I die, right, and I'm in my coffin, and say my wife or my kids or somebody in my family is giving my eulogy, and if they say the words, man, it's a shame, he had so much potential left inside of him, I'm jumping out of my casket. I'm running up on that pulpit. I'm going to choke him because I want to be out of gas. I want to give it my all. So when we're out of gas, if we've given it all, we have no potential left inside of us. That means we did the best we could with what we had, and we were the best versions of ourselves in that time. So I really appreciated that. And the quote you had at the end of this is something I use often too. This is another thing. He says, worrying is like paying interest on debt you may never owe. And I tell people that all the time. So, Blane, enough of me. I'm excited to have this interview with you today. And Blane Stewart, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Rob, I really appreciate you having me on. In our short relationship, we've known each other. We're kind of degrees of separation, kind of know each other for 20 plus years with the group you roll with. But it's an honor to be here, and I'm just glad to be on the show. And let's go ahead and see if we can bless some people.
There you go. So let's roll with it. So tell us about your early years. I mean, you've been a hustler because you had to hustle to make things to ends meet. So if you could tell us about your early years and dive into how much trouble you might have got in or could have got in or got in, and how you came out of that into where you are today.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I just want to touch on, all the things that you shared about my profile, like, and I'll talk about my childhood. I don't like to dwell on it too much because I think almost all of us on this podcast have had a dysfunctional life at some level. So it's almost like, so what? But it's you can't discredit the lessons that you learn, whether they're hard lessons, soft lessons, because in my point at this point where I'm at right now, Rob, I believe there's only errors and lessons. There's not mistakes and things, because that's just a great way to feed into the drama queen that we all have inside of us. But, as far as my beginnings, I basically, was born into a situation that, was not really there. Like, my mother is very disconnected. My father and her were not together. Like, I was a young guy, did not understanding, like, I loving my parents, but they were really like on the really quick route out from away from each other, like a lot of people's parents. And, my parents, we lived on this farm, and I always like to talk about this because when I was a kid, I was born and with my umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, and they weren't sure. I had the lowest GPAR test ever. I died a couple times before I was born, and I was really beat up. And they didn't know if I was going to have some issues. And I'd have to say something really did happen though, Rob, is it put me in drive, I believe. Even when I was a little kid, I would tell my mom on the farm, I'm like, Mom, I'm going out to work. And I'd leave the house and I wouldn't come back for like 8 or 10 hours. And I'd be out exploring, checking stuff out, missions, visualizing stuff and just having the best time. I'd come in back with no clothes on, covered head to toe. I'd be like, Mom, I've been working. Give me my hoodie. And so like as a young kid, I was just I don't know why. I think when that happened in my brain, whatever it did, it kind of put me in go mode, because I've always
Yeah,
been.
that's awesome.
Well, it's just what happened. A lot of my story, you're going to hear it. It's like I said, there's errors and lessons, and that's what I've learned in my story today. Like kind of like, because I think some of the things that people in our audience that take away from it is like our most painful things that happened that we thought were terrible and bad and dramatic. Those things usually lead to an amplified blessing. Because I believe,
Blane, God, God, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. No, I was just going to say, because that's what it is. There's only errors and lessons. And then like, if you're spiritual, there's blessings, and I'm not saying everybody on the pot here will be spiritual, but it's like, it's errors and lessons, because that keeps you tactical, where you can kind of like see what's my part in it. Because I think so many people nowadays don't want to own their part in things,
Yeah, it's so cool that you said that, because I never heard it put in terms of the errors. I've heard the lessons piece, obviously, but the errors, because like I tell people, I've done a few speeches this week, and I talk to people, like people, you hear them say the word, I had a bad experience. It was terrible, right? And I like to use the words perceived bad experience, because from a bad experience or a perceived bad experience there's a lesson. There's a lesson in it. And if you take the
Right.
lesson in it, if you're willing to take it, that dive in and take the lesson out of it, then was it really a bad experience? It was a good experience that showed up in a bad way.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're emotional and spiritual beings just trying to figure out this journey, Rob, but and what leads us to either really good places, bad places, or or like places where the lessons could be, like if we turn it inward, it can be self-destructive. And part of my story is that part of it is taking those pains and suffering and then doing something with it. So back to the farm story. The parents, they came and told us that we were leaving the safety of this farm. At that point, Rob, the one thing that showed up in my mind as a young guy, because as young people, we don't understand, like we're picking up frequencies from our family, and we might not even be told what's going on, but we know there's something wrong. And as a young person, I knew that things were just not right there. But then when they told me that night that, they were going to get divorced and we were going to lose our farm and our safety, and I had to move from a 100-acre farm to a 2-bedroom, very low income kind of ghetto apartment. And I knew at that moment I wasn't safe. Like that's the story that showed up for me. And I think a lot of life is like kind of rewiring the story,
So how did that play out for you then?
Sure. Like we moved into a town, like out of the safety. All my animals were gone. So that was the first time in my life where like I had lost a lot of things. I didn't understand it. When I went to school, Rob, school for me was a traumatic experience. I was used to watching Days of Our Life, and I had to get on this bus and start learning all this trauma, right? And
Days of Our Lives. I've watched that in
hey,
1985.
that's right. Like the sands of an hourglass. These are the days of our lives.
Days of our lives.
That's right. So anyway, what I'm getting at is I didn't understand stuff, and no one in my life. My mom smoked cigarettes and was very smart, but was very uncommunicative. And my dad was a severe drunk. Like he literally was never there when he was inebriated, right? And when your parents are having emotional issues, drunk people, they go in a direction where they want to hide from it. They don't want to face it because they're sick. They're not bad people, but it took me a lot of my life to realize that alcoholics are not bad people. They're sick people. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm running around. I go to this 2-bedroom apartment. The first day we're there, my brother sees an injustice because we're country people. We thought, you just did the right thing. We kind of learned good ethics on that farm. But then we see the first day someone taking a kid, doing something bad. My brother does kind of injustice wise, takes it and throws his bike in the dumpster. A lady opens the door and smacks my brother across the face. Like within 4 hours of being in this thing, like I'm seeing that my story is I'm not safe,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, just fast forward, my mother raised 3 of us off $13,000. So we were latchkey kids. Like we never saw our mom. She's working 3 jobs. My dad immediately stopped paying child support. He never, like a drunk person can't keep a Timex. So when he called and said, I'll be there on Friday night, the first couple of Fridays, maybe, but then after that, he never showed up. I learned that word and decisions for some people, and that's their story in their life, and they're going to get a lesson out of it. Like my parents learned lessons, and I just watched it. And I thought, God, how could 2 parents have kids and make this life so unsafe for them?
Yeah. So you saw yourself as a young guy that had a lot of, like you had a lot of awareness, a lot of common sense, a lot of intuition, maybe.
Well, I was just paying attention. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand school. I had to figure it out. Now, when
Yeah.
as part of my story, I'm telling you the two biggest lessons I think that I can share with my, anybody in business, my children, my friends. Like the biggest thing that has blessed me is figuring it out.
Mm.
And number two is being self-reliant. And so kind of like, as a young person, I was trying to just figure it all out. Like, and it was really weird because I mean, you're going through life and you're trying to figure things out. And, luckily I made it. I went through school. I kind of learned how to get with the bad kids and get with the good kids to get what I want. I learned how to manipulate to get mine, because guess what? When I went to school, it was embarrassing, Rob, to be able to, you didn't want to tell the kids that your dad sleeps in the back of a truck on the side of a mountain because he had drank all of our assets up and was so sick.
Wow.
He's living in the back of a pickup camp or truck, taking baths in a mountainside bathtub with no job, couldn't hold a job. He was so drunk. He'd pick us up with like a liquor. It looked like a bar in the middle between the seat of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was so controlled. He would sit around and ride around just inebriated drunk and pick us kids up inebriated drunk. And that was the kind of stuff we were seeing. Like, talk about figuring it out. Like, what's that about? Like, he doesn't show up to pick us up. He loves us and says it, but he's never there.
Yeah. So from that, were you able to say, that's not the life I want. I got to do the opposite. I got to be better than that. And so was there a switch that went off and said, I got to be that way?
Well, I think when you're young, before you really get traction, because I'm talking 10 years old to like 12,
Okay.
13, it spiraled down. My dad went through all of our assets that we had, which wasn't a ton, in like 4 months. And then he was broke.
Wow.
A lot of people
Right.
have those issues, Rob. I've learned they can't have a Timex sometimes is too much if you have those spiritual condition issues, like if you're having those issues. So basically what happened is I learned to adapt early. Remember the lesson or the error. Like, there were some errors and lessons that came, but it turned into a big blessing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had to hustle through that. My brother's older than me, and the older kids, what happens at 12 years old? I'm doing things like, I have girls, right? Like, I don't know why. I've been blessed with estrogen in my life. I got 2 girls, a wife, a bunch of female dogs, female cats. I don't know what it is. I'm just an estrogen life. Okay. And so basically, I'm sitting here just like, like doing things at 12 years old that I look at my kids and how we kind of changed the format. We want them to have a safe place that parents can love them and they could grow into whatever their potential is, right? And we know, Rob, we're going to screw them up in some way, so we're just waiting for that to show up.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are.
Yeah. So the cool part is I'm basically doing things that are just bad. And like, what's weird is like when you start adapting at a young age to tell people, because you don't have much inside, you're trying to make these things up on the outside so people can't see how much you're hurting. Okay. And at 12 years old, I started partying. And because when you dislike something, like in your father, a lot of times, sadly, it's who we become. You become almost like, in some circumstances, you become almost the things that you don't love.
Yeah. Huh.
Yep. So basically I fast forward the tape, I started getting into bad things. I started to figuring out how to get resources. At 16 years old, I started getting good at bad resources. I was a good hustler from 12 for my whole life. I've always known how to figure it out and get mine.
So I gotta say, because you talk about the bad resources and all that stuff, but the figuring out part, right? I can say the same thing here. Like, I started working 11 years old. My father was working 3 jobs. My mom stayed at home in a 2-bedroom house and 3-bedroom house soon after. Watching 7 kids and didn't have a lot of money. I remember my mom would have $100 to spend on 7 kids for Christmas. I remember that, right?
Yep.
So we had to go figure it out. And like you're doing really well right now. I'm doing pretty well myself. And how do we like coach our kids to figure it out? Because we don't want them to figure it out under the same pressures that we had,
Nope.
right? But how do we get them to figure it out without entitling them or enabling them, I should say?
Well, you couldn't have asked a more recent thing that just I went through. So I mean, and we didn't. And anybody who's watching this, Rob and I didn't preference this. We're so like recently, Rob. I tell you, like, because we're both business people. I know people watching this are probably people that want it all and want to grow and chisel their life away. And I'm going to talk in my story about how I got the lucky chance to become chiseled, because I used to be all over the place, and but what I've learned is, like, I have some kind of little struggles with some things, Rob. Like, number one, I don't know about generational wealth. Like, I'm not a big proponent of it. I think that's an addiction for business people that just say that so they can just keep hustling and not look inwards a lot of times. I think people really just want to build generational wealth. It just says basically, I want to be a business junkie my whole life. And I see a lot of things that I learn and observe that I don't necessarily want out of being extremely wealthy. Now,
Okay.
on the scale of wealth, I mean, I'm like an NBA player level, guy. Like, I love business, but it's all about the hustle. It's about the grind. It's about figuring it out to me. It's not really about the money. That's what's weird about me, is like, I really don't care about the money. As long as I got water and food and shelter, which I've had even in my worst of times. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But on my girls, like, one of my daughters lives in New York. Like, her cell phone is on our plan for another year and a half. And like, her car she has is like, if you really looked at what it would cost to insure it and do the things, she needs to make about another 10 grand a year. And like, me and mom would talk about it, but wouldn't relay it to her, So sometimes we don't want to hurt our kids. Like, at least me, I don't know how you do it, but sometimes I'm just a little sensitive because I love those damn girls so much. Excuse my language. I love them so much that I would do anything for them. But what we don't realize is when you're taking away the gift of figuring it out and becoming self-reliant, you are literally punishing those people. That's why I don't know about giving a bunch of money to my kids. Like, I've probably got, like, I'd probably be like the person on the bench on an NBA team at the bottom level. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I've, just because I love the hustling and figured it out. That's kind of where my life's gotten to. And
Yeah.
and then my other daughter, we just talked about not paying for graduate school so she could figure it out. But like, things just keep happening, and the hard conversations are really not that hard. You just got to have them, because it's our emotional fears and stuff that are usually holding back the hard conversations in our relationships. And recently I just did both of those talks because I said, honeys, daddy's the one who loves the hustle. I'm probably going to like mess your life up in some way. Like, I'm going to drop this bomb on you, later in my life when I'm gone. And like you said, in the coffin, like, when I'm gone, all of a sudden this bomb's going to drop on my family. And it has a risk of like taking away the ability for them to have to figure it out.
Yeah, I love how you said the gift, taking away. You don't want to take away the gift of letting them figure things out. I mean, like my son and his fiance, they're getting married in May, and you worry about them financially, you worry about them geographically, and like you said, worry is like paying interest on the debt not owed, right? And
Yep.
like, who am I to worry? Who am I to say God doesn't have them in a better place or in a good place? Who am I to make that judgment, right? And who am I to take away the opportunity for them to figure things out? So that's I'm doing it right now as we're talking.
Well, cool. Well, I'm gonna revert back just so you guys, so it doesn't, because sometimes people meet me and they're like, Blane, is that legit? Like, your life was really that? Because most people meet me now, like, I've been on the spiritual path for probably 18 years, and I like, so like, I'm gonna go back to that from 12 to about 20. I got into things, Rob, because I had exported all my spirit to the outside because I was insecure. I didn't feel loved. I didn't have support. I had to figure all this stuff out, because figuring stuff out hurts, man. Like, and me and my wife both are kind of from a similar dynamic. We had to figure it out. Like, no
Yeah.
resources, no dad. I had to figure out how to adapt and stuff. And what happened is, because I had such low self-esteem, and I started hanging with the bad kids, because anybody who's latchkey kids, they all find each other. They all have spiritual deficiencies, and the only thing that makes up for it is bad stuff.
Okay.
And so bad stuff kind of took over my life, because what it did is it gave me the feeling of power and the feeling of companionship and connectedness. And I started doing felonious things at 16 years old. I was doing felonious acts and hustling. And I mean, I was good at that too, Rob. Don't get me wrong. I mean, just because you have bad focus, you can still be good at the same time. And that's one thing I find about life and business. There's so many dynamic forces pulling us in different directions that are supposed to happen at the same time. And
Yeah, that's powerful right there. Go on,
yeah,
keep going.
because so many people are, I think, trying to strive to just making it good. But man, the bad is where the supposed bad, like we said, it's got the lesson. It's got the explosive lesson waiting for you. So you almost get to this point in business where you're looking to go into the hardship. Like, I'm one of these people jokingly call me like the systemized punisher, because I'm like a punisher these days. I'm the Mike. See that Michael Jordan poster? Every day of my life, I got an avatar, Rob. I wear Air Jordans every day of my life. As soon as I leave the house nowadays, my systems and processes says Blane stays home. Michael Jordan puts his shoes on, and he's going out to play on the court.
Wow, I love that. I love
Well,
that.
it helps me because everything's a mental game. But as a young person, I didn't have the feeling of being loved and cared for. And that's all we really want. Like, millions of dollars just gives you more better first class plane tickets and big houses and cool cars, but it doesn't give you any better spiritual condition. You know, that's why we're talking about that generational wealth, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I meet some people that are so rich, Rob, I wouldn't trade my spot in life today, because I got juicy friends like you and other people that I get to hang out with that really are my friends and are we're doing stuff in the same direction. That's priceless, right? And
Yeah.
so real quick, I just tell you, so I literally was putting myself in felonious ways. I literally at a young age was doing bad things, and every day I was putting myself in multiple felony type situations that were dangerous for me, right? People laugh, like at 16 years old, Rob, I had my own townhouse and multiple cars, and and this was with a mom who wasn't there. You follow me? Like,
At 16.
yes. And it's at 18, I had someone when there was a lot of things going on, and this is where divinity, you talk about the prayer we said before this and how God's working for us. And if we can just get out of the way of it, things start working for us. Like at 19 years old, I had someone who was high on drugs that I was trying to do something bad with, put a gun to my stomach. And I had to back my way out. I'm like, listen, man, I don't want anything. Let me just back out of here. And I had to get out of the addiction of like that, just fulfilling this empty hole that I could never fill. Right.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know, some of the people that I rolled with after I had bad stuff happen, like they ended up on the front page of the Washington Post, where there's like people who were getting caught in like trafficking things that were like lifetime sentences, where I just luckily had to go over to another state and get out of the thing. So like, I always jokingly, Rob, for people that get to know me, I feel like I'm God has the back tire of this motorcycle going 100 miles an hour and it's on ice. That's called the story of my life. Like God's holding this thing. There's no sense why I'm here, Rob, right? There's no sense why me and you can bless some people today. I like literally, if you take my genetics and my family history and the things that should be happening for Blane, I should be dead. I should be in a drunk somewhere. I should be in some neurotic situation. And because at 30 years old, I was so spiritually bankrupt that I literally did things that I never thought I would do. And it took a SWAT team. I'm not joking, Rob, a SWAT team to give me a chance to live a good life.
So I got to ask, you know, so you said at 30 years old, you were spiritually bankrupt. If you want to tell the story about the SWAT team, love to hear it. But so is that the switch? Because my next question was going to be, what's the switch that changed everything?
Cool. Well, listen here. At 30 years old, remember how people who feel inadequate on the inside have things on the outside, and then we'll look at it. I had millions of dollars of rental properties at that time. I had figured some stuff out. I was making six figures at 27 years old.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I had figured out how to hustle the good hustle. They would always jokingly call me Wall Street because they knew I wanted to make money. Right? I mean, I love making money. Anybody who doesn't like making money just doesn't know what America's about, man. It wants us to hustle, you know? And so basically, like, what happened was I had made all these decisions and I didn't know it, because when you're spiritually bankrupt on the inside and you're outporting everything, it's all about, look at my houses and cars, and you may not be doing good things. You're just trying to avoid the truth. Like, if you're hurting, the only thing I could share on this podcast, man, it's tough, man. We got to let people know. We got to ask for help. Like for me in the old days, it was like, help, help, help. And I could never get help. But at 30,
because you didn't want people to think you were weak.
I was sick, just like my dad. I had run in that same cycle. I was drinking all the time. I was running around to projects. I was getting high with contractors everywhere. I was doing everything bad. I just wasn't good. I was literally behind doors being crazy in my house. I mean, I just was not a great person, Rob. And that's why people, when they hear about my story, about how I was so bad and they know me now, they're like, you're joking. But
so you said spiritually bankrupt. I mean, if you can clarify that, because I know what it means, but what is it? Can you just share with the audience, what does it mean to be spiritually bankrupt?
Absolutely. You're doing more and more bad things to the people you love because your spirit is so uncomfortable and so empty that miserable people who are empty only can create misery and pain in others, because we have nothing to give. Like if you're empty on the inside, like in the, capitalism, Rob, is weird, because if you start getting some money, you can look good on the outside and you can be bad on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I look good on the outside, but bro, there was nothing on the inside. Like every day, all I really wanted, I didn't know it at that time. So then I hit this bottom in my life. I don't really want to go into super details about it.
You don't have to, but you're 30 years old. You're spiritually bankrupt.
I put my family and myself in grave danger, because all I wanted to do was be loved and accepted, but I had no knowledge or base on how to do that. I knew how to hustle. I knew how to make money. I was figuring it out. I was owning properties, flipping properties. I'm learning a lot. Owned a mortgage company at that point. I mean, I'm doing a lot of stuff. But then when I hit the bottom, I couldn't see my family for 6 months. Like I was a danger to them.
Gosh. Wow.
Yeah. So guess what? Um, I had this person that, we just went to a birthday party with. On my desk, there was cards, these beautiful cards that says, come to this thing with me. If you come to this thing with me, you'll make an extra $100,000 every year. And guess what? My ego, because when you're insecure, your ego and fear is running the show, Rob.
Yeah.
Only thing that kept me alive and not even killing myself. Like I was so down when I did this thing because I'd done so many things I wish I hadn't done, but I didn't know at that time it was a lesson.
Yeah. A lesson and a blessing.
It was no blessing came later, but it hurt at that time. And I definitely did not like what I had created. And I felt terribly ashamed of who I had become and what I had done. Okay.
Okay.
And that was a feeling because I was just an empty person. I was a sick person that didn't know I needed help. But thank God for that SWAT team, baby.
So tell me about the SWAT team.
So the SWAT team happened. I literally couldn't see my family. I started doing things okay. I stopped all the partying and drinking. I took all the money I had at the time out of the bank and put it in a plastic bag and was riding around with me. I was mentally just out there, brother. Okay.
Wow.
I had a flip project. I was one of those people that no matter what's going on, always keep my credit good. And I'd use credit cards. I'm a maximizer and I did it bad back then. But guess what? Your assets and defects, Rob, are back to back.
Jeez.
Okay. I was good at a lot of things and I was bad at a lot of things because I was making bad choices from an empty place, not knowing where to go. I got him with our good friend. Went to this thing and you know what I said? I said, F it. He told me to sign up for this coaching thing. I'm saying in the back and I have this credit card. I'm like, F it. It's just one more thing to bankrupt. To keep my marriage together, I had all these rental properties, had $20-some thousand in mortgages going out a month, right? And so basically I couldn't work. I was so depressed, man. I'd never even been able to recognize that I was a sad, depressed man in my life.
Well, so if I could get the record straight here, so you got all these properties and you got the mortgages going out, but you got money coming in. So was it a financial issue at all, or did you lose it all? If I could ask that.
Well, what it was this was in 2006. You talk about a blessing, Rob. I'm a lucky man. I had to sell off some of my properties and stuff to keep my marriage together. And guess what? If God had not hit me with that SWAT team and all the bad decisions, I would have been bankrupt like crazy. But I had to get rid of. In 2006, I had to get rid of my properties before the big meltdown, right?
Okay.
But I joined that coaching thing with my credit card in the back, and because of my fear and my doubt, because I'd never had faith at that point, Rob. I didn't know faith if it smacked me in the thing. Only thing I knew is that I feared my government, feared everything because I was scared of everything because I had come from a place of fear.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I was masking all of my feelings because I didn't know what they were. And so I get this blessing. It is a blessing today. And I can share anybody who's suffering and done things that are terrible, it can get better. Okay.
Good.
So
it's good to
the cool
know.
part is I joined this coaching thing. I think F it. It's one more thing. I'm a bankrupt. I run that MasterCard thinking this ain't going to work for me. There's a tattoo of that group you saw it of this thing where I kind of I had to put 46,000 on this one project on the credit card because I'd always flip them, and then I'd pay myself back and of course get my points too. And so I couldn't get it back on this one project. I had to do it to save my marriage. I got into this program. I'm doing right. I did do a couple bad things when I couldn't see my family. I was just very strong-willed, Rob. My decisions equal bad things without people like coaches and people telling me what to do.
Yeah.
When I run the show on my own, it's bad. Okay.
So who's the guiding who is the guiding principle?
The guiding principle was that people like the person we had that birthday party with, he's sending me these cards. I'm putting them on my desk. God was sending me the signals, but I was just so good. I tell him every time he'd ask me to go to that thing, I'd say, I'm too busy. That's right. Those cards, you got it. Those things are all over my desk. And then I go to that thing and within 6 months, I paid off $48,000 with the credit card, made $257,000 because I'm feeling good. And now someone's telling me what to do. And I have the ability now to go do good practices versus my way.
Yeah, if I could cut in real quick here, Blane. So the company and organization he's talking about is the Buffini Company. So Blane, you probably don't know yet, but I'd probably have about 65% of the guests on this podcast have been through the Buffini Company. So people have heard that name over and over. And so he's talking about a tattoo he has. It's the 5 circles of Buffini and Company, the coaching, it's real estate lending and coaching company, and it's based on 5 circles. It's spiritual, family, business / education, finances, and your personal self, which could be emotional or physical. So it's these 5 circles that are intertwined. You become the whole person you're supposed to be. So I know I cut in on that there, Blane, but keep going. Well, let me ask this: who was it? A legitimate like SWAT team, or was a SWAT team like people that were close to you, like Tom?
Legitimately a grown man at 30 years old running through the woods, hiding on a playground of kids' playground while a SWAT team of police chased me down after doing terrible things that I shouldn't have done.
And they caught you, obviously.
Well, no, they actually didn't. Because I knew those woods like the back of my hands. It was in my neighborhood. I was so inebriated at that time. They had to take me to another county. I came back, and then I had to turn myself into jail, Rob. Okay. I didn't. And listen, here's what I did. This is for anybody who, like, if you can get honest about who you are, there's no limit to what we can do, right? So here's the deal. Like, I literally called my wife, who I could not talk to, and I said, hey, before I turn myself in jail, can we just please close on that one real estate deal? You understand, Rob? Like, I was a heartless, empty person of a shell. And I want to share this because, listen, people who are suffering, who might have substance abuse issues and don't know it, or feel like they know it in their mind, but they can't say it, there is hope. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you're proving it. So the SWAT team saved you. And now, now you got this, was it like, you our friend Tom, who was sending you all the notes. So now you start going to the Buffini thing. And did you start getting yourself engrossed with all these people, relationships?
There were so many blessings that happened. As soon as I took the hammer off the race car, which was drugs and alcohol, like, it didn't make me spiritually better, but like, I got into the Buffini thing, and I was getting coached, and they're telling me what to do, and I start getting traction. And then my wife kind of like sees that I'm not doing the bad stuff, and I'm starting to work towards good stuff. I get into a spiritual practice that I still work today for people that have drug and alcohol problems, that was teaching me spiritual principles and how to like live life on life's terms. Right. And so like I get into all these things, and all of a sudden, like, from a guy who had nothing, my mind was so closed off to anything. If I didn't understand it, Rob, and I didn't know exactly what was going to happen, I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
My fears and controls were so high, which now don't get me wrong. Remember those opposites? Control freak is good in business, because if you love details and being a great business, you got to have. So remember those assets and defects, control freak to like business, caring about details, running tight ships. Those are good things that came from that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no worries. So basically, what happened, I get into these things, I start moving. I literally like kind of become like a quick poster child for my coach that's coaching me. He's like, dude, you're blowing up so fast. Cause like I was feeling better. Like I'd never felt good in my life, really. Like I'm building self-esteem, because here's the secret I've learned. You don't build self-esteem by getting it all figured out and then maybe acting later. You act and build the airplane while it's smoking and burning and going crazy. That's the truth of real growth.
Yeah.
You can't make
profound.
You cannot make a pretty tarmac and make a shiny plane and then it takes off. I've never done that before. Like in my story, I'm a grinder, producer guy, and I always will be. I never want to sell anything or do anything. I love producing, right? So basically, I start getting all this traction. I get rid of all those properties. It's just a weird divinity. I start getting good. Then all of a sudden, I get disenamored by that coaching group, because it's someone on a headset making 60 grand who's never made any money telling me what to do.
Oh, wow. That's a good point. That's a good point.
And there's nothing wrong. It taught me the basics. It taught me a lot of things. And then the next miracle happened. You ready for this one? So
I'm ready.
There's a hot rod lady. Look her up now. Her name was Sasha Farmer at that time, but now her name's Sasha Tripp, for anybody that's looking up. Sasha, she goes, Blane, we're closing 2 deals a month. You really love business. I just went into this coaching thing. You seem like you should go with me. I'm like, do you want me to wash your car too? Like, let's go to California, whatever you need. 2 deals a month back then was like, that was big time. Okay.
Right.
And so we go there, and she, in that group, you had to make, at that time, adjusted gross income, 250. And this is like the most elite militant coaching group in the world. I mean, it's only 500 people. They're all it's ridiculous since I've been a part of it. And so basically she goes, you really like business and pretty good at it. Why don't you go out here? And I said, cool, let's do it. You need your car washed? So I'm rolling out to California, and she was making 13 grand. She lied to get in, Rob. Okay.
Wow.
She couldn't even afford the program. It was $2,250 a month when I joined, right? I mean, this is gangster level. This is like McMansion payment. But listen, what this group did different, and at Buffini, there's nothing but joy. There's the amazing group, and it teaches you so many things. It blessed my life at a high level about working by referrals, pop buys, and all the stuff to get the basics down. Now, this group, it taught about how to build teams to cater to customers.
Okay.
What it most importantly did is it teaches people in our industry are not generally great business people. Like we tend to be like characters and producing, but we're not good at like P&Ls, profit and losses, personal family budgets. This place is crazy. They literally, Rob, they make us fill out P&Ls, personal family budgets every 2 weeks. They make us track all of our activity. And if we don't do it, they fine us and donate our money to charity.
Yeah. Okay. So it's accountability at the highest level.
Highest level, right? I get in there. Now I leave there, and by design, I left out of there. I felt like I was this big because they really know how to like tell you that you stink. And I went to California, and there were some miracles. Like I got to meet Jack Canfield. At that point, when I hit that bottom, I started learning about The Secret, and I started learning about lots of cool things because I started opening up and I started reading books. At this point, when I got out of college, my 4th year professor said, Blane, I don't know how you even got this point. You can barely read and write. And it was the truth. And since that point of getting clean and moving to this point, right, I've now read probably 500 books and put $1 million in my brain. Okay.
There you go.
So I get in this thing and it took off like a rocket. Like this thing was amazing. First year, like 357. Next year, like I'm talking net, 480, 790, 890, 1 million. I mean, I would have never guessed it. But what happened is I used to think, Rob, like here's the little producer like me, and here's the people that got the lucky networks and the skills.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I learned that if I'm inside the picture frame, Blane's life is terrible. Okay, when I have someone outside the frame telling me what to do, which is the best practice to be a champion, because I had been since a young man, I had always been a champion. I'd been like good at what I put on, and I was a great skateboarder. I was like almost a pro skateboarder when I was like 10 years old. I've skated with Tony Hawk, and I built up self-esteem. Then I wrecked it all as I became older. I had no self-esteem, but I was still good at stuff, always wanting to win. And this group and my life at that point kind of started growing like crazy. Like, it was just a level that I would have never dreamt in a million years that I've been blessed enough to like be able to share. And like I'll give you something that I love about my life, Rob.
What's that?
Is my company, we don't like people with experience in the industry. Okay. And I'll tell you why, because I have to live a pretty humble life because of the story I told you. If I don't keep myself in humble production and stay grateful and work really hard, if there's white space in my life, it can turn gray. Okay. I'm that kind of guy. Quick. And even if I'm not doing bad stuff, it can quickly turn bad in my conversations. I can be snarky, it quickly gets in there. Right. So we have an underdog culture because I've learned that there are people like me with the right personality who maybe just haven't had a break or someone that's loved them enough to pour into them. And that friend of ours that we talked about, his family, when I was the most broken around 19, they took me in and they loved me like crazy. It was the first time in my whole adult life that his dad took me in and he didn't even ask me nothing. He just knew I was a good person and he treated me with love and respect and dignity. And I now in my culture, I take underdogs and I teach them. I say, look, if you got the personality, I'll teach you everything. I love teaching people. I love coaching people. A guy who started with me 11 years ago took me 2 months to the side and said, hey, Blane, I want to thank you, man. I'm a millionaire. I mean, when he started with me. Was his name
Tony? Was this the guy, Tony?
Yeah, Tony. And Tony, he started, his car was getting repoed, when he came on board with us, because he too had problems. And guess what? He's been clean and sober for 9 years.
Yeah.
He's a millionaire. Wow. I mean, I just think it's amazing when you can take somebody and you give them a chance to accelerate and know what to say and what to do and how to do it, and just watch them go out and just fumble through, and they're thinking that they're failing and having all these negative things, and they don't realize that all of us have negativity bias in us. Like if someone says 8 good things inside of us, all of us just hear the one bad.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a couple questions here, Blaine,
Yeah.
in the few minutes we have left. So you made a point, and I don't know if everybody heard it or not. You said you were when you were younger, you had self-esteem, and then you lost it all, and now I think you have it back. So I think the point is self-esteem is something you always got to work at. It's not something you just have. You have to work at it. Would you agree with that?
I think you have to take action with like thought. In our world, people think thinking is like, especially if you're a business person, thinking has very low value in business context. Like action equals ripple effect. Thinking has no ripple effect.
Right. Thinking without doing leads you nowhere.
That's pretty much it. And like I said, like when you take massive action, like the core taught me, that was the other coaching group. They made me take massive action, and they made me create the chaos, which forced me to become super process driven, which I was never process driven. I'm a process monster now. And
And
it's
there you
like,
are.
and I actually learned I love it. You know, like I love systems and processes, discipline, structure. Like those are like really cool things that showed up for me.
So let me ask you this question. Thanks for sharing that. So you said you're a guy that if there's white space, it can get gray really quick. So here's a question I have for you. So is there work to be done there where like Blaine can deal with white space that doesn't have to worry about getting gray? Have you ever thought of that, or has that ever crossed your mind?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of the guy, like if let's think about it. I don't believe in work-life balance. Okay. I
Uh-huh.
believe in calendar control.
Okay.
Like calendar control means I know that I can basically choose my time to the best of the output. And what I do, which is my kind of like personal, like for instance, you guys kind of know it, but like I've got like five iPads synced to my phone where people are texting as me all day long. Do you follow me? Like when I get on a first class plane, my phone gets handed to my team, and then business just moves. And like I want to, when I go on vacation, Rob, like I don't talk to people. Like I do not connect to the world. I just focus on my time. So I probably have more free time than, like, most people think business people are like, oh, he works all the time. I just think it's kind of funny because you just don't want to argue with most people because they just have no idea what it really takes.
Okay. So you can calendar in your white space if you want and do what you want to do with it.
That's right. I mean, I'm very like, I mean, you'd be surprised like how much yoga I do and how many practices I do in the morning, and how many, like last night we're doing fire and ice at my house with business friends who love that kind of stuff. I've really learned to like sync my passions with the people that I love to work with. Then I almost never work, Rob. I don't feel
Because
like
you
it.
love it. You love what you do,
I
right?
do. Yep.
And this has been great. I mean, we got a couple more minutes here. What so going forward, right? I mean, like you're very we didn't get into all the high level success you have, but you mentioned numbers, right? And
Yeah.
so we know you're doing very well. But how much more? Like, what's next? How much more chiseling do you got going on in your life? What's the
Oh,
next thing?
listen, I am. If you look at what happens to a fleet car when you retire it, Rob, it rusts away and it sits in a junkyard. Like I will never retire. I have no desire to retire. I am going to be pushing every envelope in those five circles you're talking about until, like you said, that saying is not a joke to me. Like the reason I
I
say
agree.
I'm a punisher because, like, listen, I'm blessed to be alive today. There's only the number of hours. Like if you looked at my calendar today, Rob, like I had face to face, face to face, face to face, drove an hour there, got up an hour ahead, prepared a group text and a task email for my team before that, drove an hour, did three face to faces, drove back an hour, got coached, then got off of that, did a phone call with appointment, did this, then I coached another group of people, then I have 5 client appointments, and then I'm done for the day.
Still to go
Today,
after this.
today.
If
Yeah.
so, you're not
So,
done after this. You got
yeah.
more to do.
But then after that, then I got a partner coming in and we're going to go goof off in the woods and have fun. And he's one of my top accounts. Like it's like if I'm on, Rob, I'm on. When I'm off, I'm off.
There you go. But no SWAT team's gonna be chasing you in the woods tonight, right?
Well, I can tell you, since I got on this journey of spiritual life, like that's what I got
Uh-huh.
blessed on. Because see, in my old life, and I'll wrap it up with this, like I used to always feel when I was a kid that people were pushing me and I had to do things. I always felt like I had to go figure it out, had to do this thing. Now today, I can't say those feelings are always gone. Okay, because your past is here today, whether you
You
like
got
it
to
or not.
manage it. You got to
Hey,
manage it.
you manage it, you channel it in. But the main thing is through this journey, um, the numbers that people should hear is we did $143 million in production. Okay.
Amazing.
Most people would chop their pinky off, Rob, for 20 or 40, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Listen,
Exactly.
I'm going to take my business at a retail model, like not with a lot of people either. We're going to go at least to a $500 million of production. We're going to keep blessing
Uh-huh.
people and growing people. I'm 49 today. Guarantee you, unless there's tragedy that, or not tragedy, just when I'm supposed to go happens, I'm going to grind hard until I'm at least 70. I mean,
There
in
you
this
go.
industry, I ain't going nowhere, no time soon. I've got enough money. I could have retired at easily probably 38 years old
Uh-huh.
from a monetary perspective.
Right.
So the answer is like, I'm going to keep blessing people because the secret to life and what I've learned, the highest level of spiritual achievement is to be of service to other people.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Well
give,
said.
I am never going to not give someone help that I can raise up the level. Cause like our motto is other people's money, but guess what? It's not what you would think. It's basically every person that comes in contact with us, we're going to raise the frequency up for them. Every customer that comes in, their money's going up because they met us. Because I got to go through all these experiences and had to figure it out. I get to bless more people. I get to raise the levels.
Do you ever come across people you say, I can't help that person?
Well, I think the main thing you got to look at is it's like you're like, I think this is one thing that bothers me about our industry. Like if there's not a sale, people look at it too one dimensional. Like if I can help a customer of yours get into a better position and see, like, holistically looking at things instead of just looking at it as a mortgage, I look at it as how can I up their game? How can I show them how to make more with what they got? How can I give them tips to go to the next level? And then if they text you and say, Blaine's the best nerdy guy ever, your business is going up because you've got the people that are giving you real-time feedback that I'm amazing. Like that's a process and a system that people just don't know.
And what about people that work for you? Have you ever come across people that you may be interviewing or might want to be an LO under you and you say, I can't help that person?
Well, I think what it is like, this is what I love about capitalism and nature. Like anybody who knows me, like the great outdoors is my higher power for sure. Like no doubt. Okay.
Yeah.
So like if you ever watch nature and capitalism, I think that's why I'm pretty good at business because business is like, if you're running it any more than 1+1=2, you're kind of off track. It's got to be stupid simple, right? Like
Right.
nature grows and does everything perfectly. Every time we try to put wolves in to stop rabbits, it don't work good, right? It just things get out of whack. Okay. In capitalism, it's amazing because everybody's going to end up where they're supposed to be naturally. And the more people that come through your organization, you're going to be blessed because see people who stop, like you know what I'm talking about. Like we have people in our friends that like only go to this level in business because the truth is they can't emotionally handle the punishment of dealing with the humans. Like that's the truth. Like
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
spirit gets beaten down having people. Here's what I've learned. The more people you come through your organization and you like, I bet you at this point in the last 14 years, I've had 50 plus people come through just my personal team, not even including the operation.
Wow.
Because it's the lessons, man. You're learning stuff. If you're not taking on the lesson, you ain't growing. So
Yeah.
like that's the key is like in my operation, no, I don't think so. I think what it is they may have things in their limiting beliefs that's going to take them to where they're supposed to be. I wasn't meant to teach them. I'm only supposed to teach them with the time that they're with me.
The time that they're with you, exactly. And what you said is really a humble statement. The fact that you're taking them where you're supposed to go, and that's it. And it's this has been a really really cool conversation for me. I
Well,
appreciate that energy you got going on, Blane. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, whether to work for you, or to get a loan from you, or
yep.
just to chat with you about life and chiseling, how would they get a hold of you?
Well, I do this on most things because I think people who are like don't want to share or like I think our business just doesn't have enough people that are willing to be vulnerable. Right here, 540-717-6237 is my personal cell phone. If anybody wants to talk about any subject or want to grow their business or go to the next level, please call me. Like I am, if I don't give it to you, I can't keep it.
There you go. There you go. I love that. And the fact that you just want to help others, again, is another humbling statement. And it's servant leadership, helping others, give it out, right? But it's the lessons part. That's the real humility piece right
Hey,
there.
Rob, can I say one more thing too?
There you go.
Is listen, one of the biggest blessings I get in these coaching opportunities is I get to see the very best people on the planet being transparent with me, showing me all their secrets. And I've just everybody in that group just says, steal my secrets. Let's share them. Let's share them. Let's share them. If I get to see best practices, it's really easy because I can take something and implement it now. Because I used to be like an overthinker. Fast implementation of great processes equals the same ripple effect as it does for the big producers.
We'll be talking offline about that.
All right, I'm ready. Let's do it. Hey, listen, you're awesome. Rob, I'm glad you're blessing a lot of people. Thank you for allowing me to be on your show today. I'm grateful.
Yes, to stay here afterwards. But everybody, thank you to Blane. He was an inspiration to me. I'm going to pick his brain a little more. And until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.
Let's get 'em.